All right, Robb Flynn, Killers and Kings. We are doing a collaboration with 3 of my favorite thrash bands, and right now I got 2 of the main dudes from the bands we're doing the collab with. This is Schmier from Destruction, Craig Cicero from Forbidden. How you doing, guys?
Doing awesome. Yeah.
All right.
We've been hanging out all day. You had a crazy day. You got here at 5 o'clock.
We got here far too late. We just arrived yesterday by 20-hour travel to the States. Then the trailer broke down, and the bus was fucked up, and now we're here.
First day of the tour.
It's hell, but
he's here talking to you fuckers. So, we're just going to talk about, this is just kind of like whatever. I don't really have anything planned out. I just, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this collaboration, and I was talking about it with Craig, is that I went to this, it's like a conference, like a streetwear conference, and that my company's.
And they saw all those bootlegs from the metal bands.
They're just fucking.
It's crazy.
But there's tons of them.
In France, some of those main designers, they've been doing like our Matt Butcher design on vests for little girls.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Oh wow!
It was in some fashion magazines, and they were like,
and it's fucking lame. And so I didn't realize that they didn't really know what it was. I just assumed that they knew what it was. So I went up and I started talking to this company. He's got all these flyers from the Bay Area, like thrash metal flyers and all this stuff, and I was like, dude, this is fucking awesome. I started talking to him about it, like, yeah, man. He's just like, oh yeah, man, we pulled all these flyers off of Google. They're cool, right? I'm like,
oh man,
you don't fucking know. I'm like, fuck these dudes.
That is the whole fucking problem.
Like our skull, we have this Destruction skull that we used on the covers, also on the first album, Infernal Overkill.
Yep.
And the skull became our trademark, and the skull is of course also in the internet, and I see it everywhere on like techno DJs.
No shit.
They do like flyers with our skull, and we're writing the guy like, hey dude, this is like it's not free. Like it's our skull, you cannot just use it. Yeah. And the guy's like, what? It's on Google, Yeah.
It's on the internet.
So, which brings us to why this is cool.
Yeah.
Because you actually talked to us and reached out to people about it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why this whole idea is awesome to me. Because somebody actually made the overture to ask and say, hey, would it be cool if? And yeah, it's cool when that's the case, and it's not cool when it's not the case. So
and I mean, I feel like if you're gonna pillage our culture, like you need to have a little, I don't necessarily mind it so much, but I just feel like they need to have some knowledge of it or some experience in it. And if you don't, like, fuck you.
In Germany,
like a culture vulture.
In Germany right now, they wear all those ripped pants, those ripped tight jeans that we were wearing in 84, 83, and they were laughing at us at that time. Yeah. And now it's the fashion in Germany.
Right.
It's like, what the fuck? It's weird how stuff turns around.
To be completely honest, most of them weren't laughing. Most of them weren't born.
Yeah.
I mean, those people were laughing. Nowadays, they don't laugh anymore. But back in the day, when we started, they called us punks because they didn't know metal existed. Because in 82, 81, 83, our first album, metal was not even born yet. It was just hard rock.
Yeah.
And then metal was getting...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so...
Well, you guys are definitely at the pioneer front end of it all,
From the extreme bands, I mean, of course, in the States, Slayer, Metallica, and Exciter from Canada was very early.
So 83 was what, Mad Butcher?
83 was the Sentence of Death.
Oh,
the one with the bullet bells.
Okay, gotcha.
That was 83.
That was an EP, or was that a full album?
We recorded 83, it came out 84, and it was like an EP of 5 songs. So
it's an EP,
And basically, they were testing if this kind of music would have fans. So they just signed us for an EP and then one option.
Right.
And the EP was like selling, and then we got the record deal, basically.
That's awesome.
So then this one came out.
And this one came out,
That was a game changer for me.
Yeah, that's the skull they use everywhere now for...
Yeah. So this is the collab that we did. We got the Forbidden collab over here. But the reason that I thought of this one in particular, the fucking artwork's amazing. It's still like a fucking classic, awesome. I mean, you guys had like a string of just badass looking albums.
Yeah.
Like I think we pretty much bought your album because it was just like, holy shit, look at this fucking album cover.
That's how we bought our first records back in the day, beginning of the 80s. Just the badass covers mattered, and then when we said our first album's gonna have badass covers too, so it was important to.
But I remember Craig and I listening to this record when we were at your mom's house.
My little not stereo.
Yeah,
It's two
and
speakers.
it had to have been 85 because I was pretty sure that the record just came out.
Yeah, it was. No, I bought it like the week it came out.
85,
there.
85.
Yeah, and we were just sitting there. We put it on, and I remember going like, "Holy shit!" And we had already heard you because of other stuff. But then we got to that song, "The Ritual," and I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" I was like, listen to that fucking riff, man.
Actually, I listened to 3 of your records in their entirety today. I went through that one and all the way through Eternal Devastation and Release from Agony. I listened to all.
Yeah, we just did some re-recording of the old stuff, like best of album, and so we had to.
Oh, re-recorded the songs.
Yeah.
All right.
So we had to recreate all the riffs and ideas, and it's kind of cool to dive back into the beginning, because when you're 17, you write some crazy stuff, like you don't care about can I play this live or so. You just like you want to do crazy shit, and it was nice to recreate the riffs and dive back into time. And yeah, I gotta say, now after 30 years, it's some great riffs that you start to forget, And
do you notice when you go back and look at your old riffs that how much that you modulate your key changes a lot more?
Yeah.
You didn't care. You just went from one string to the other string, one string to the other string, or maybe fret
also
down.
the time.
Nowadays, like people stay in the same key a lot.
Yeah,
more.
well, your drummer had a lot to do with the time.
The drummer was not the tightest, but he was wild, and of course when you cannot recreate that kind of loose feeling, it's kind of.
It's so you were talking about the Possessed records earlier.
Also,
like those Possessed records, they were so fucking like, what the fuck are they doing? But it was awesome because it was just like, I don't know where the time is, but
was fucking wild.
badass.
Yeah,
that was the magic of Mike Suss.
Like Mike's
He had a magic to him. Like
I never did figure out what
happened to him.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I know that
that
Jeff Becerra just got Possessed back together. That's
and they got a deal with Nuclear Blast.
Yeah, I know, and I'm pretty stoked about that. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's so.
Possessed has been back together for a while, but I think he's got a really good band now.
Yeah, you got this band from LA. It's like from the LA scene, some Satanic Hispanic guys.
Satanic Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
We love the Satanic Hispanics.
Good band, good guys, and it's great to see he finally got signed. Got all the recognition back, and he's been working hard for it. And it wasn't easy for him, I'm sure, in the last.
Fuck no, he's singing in a wheelchair, and fuck, dude, it
takes a lot of balls to do that.
Fuck yeah, man, takes a lot of heart, dude. It's awesome. It's awesome. You've been 83. You said you recorded your first album.
Yeah.
83. Fuck, that's 34 years ago.
34 years, yeah. Crazy.
So was there ever a period where Destruction stopped, or have you been going?
The 90s were difficult because we had like a big fight. Then I was out of the band for some years, and they continued without me.
Oh,
and it was
what?
Yeah.
I never.
There's some history I've never heard.
It was the time where grunge was getting big, and all the death metal bands were very big at this time. And
we don't know anything about that.
And actually, but in those years, I was still playing music, but then I met all those death metal bands, and they were all like, "Oh, without Destruction, we wouldn't be here." And I'm like, "I'm not in the band anymore at the moment." And they were like, "Bring it back." And at the time, it was like, it's never going to happen because we were friends. We broke up. The guys continued without me. It didn't work out anymore. But
so they got a new singer and everything.
Yeah, it didn't work. It was like the fans didn't like it, and then they lost the record deal, and then we came back in '99 because people didn't stop asking, and I said, yeah, but we have to be friends again to do this, and it's basically what happened. That we've been sitting down, talked what happened. We were young kids. We had a lot of pressure from the labels. Then we were fighting over the direction of the band. And the label tried to push us for being like, the next European Slayer and stuff, and we were like 18, 19 years old. And, and you have a manager that is kind of telling you the wrong things and push.
So you got back together in '99.
'99, yeah.
And you've been going.
Yeah, since
that was
then.
18 years ago.
Since then,
that's as long as a lot of bands.
Yeah, since then we've been very busy and like doing albums, like so many albums actually, like a little bit too much here and there because we're doing an album for a while every 2 years, like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And now we take it a little easier because we also want to enjoy, want to tour also. It's also not so necessary anymore nowadays that you have to do an album every 2 years, and you can also decide it yourself. When we came back, we still listened to the label, and back in the day they were like, in the 80s was like an album every year basically. And then in the 2000s it was every 2 years.
Slow down.
And now we're taking it easier because everything has changed since the downloads and the new media, of course.
Yeah. So when did you guys meet?
The first time?
That we officially, before we met, I got to go back to before.
Were you guys, did you become friends at some point? Like after?
Yeah, in 2008. You want to fast forward to that, but it was a mutual admiration. Like obviously I love Destruction. I turned you on to Destruction way back then, and then for years I was following it through. And then when Forbidden Evil came out, you guys were really vocal about that record, and I was like, you know, when you're really young and you find out your heroes respect you, it was impactful. It was like, no fucking way. I'd seen an interview like, yeah, we really like that album Forbidden Evil. You know, I was like, no fucking way. And then years and years later, when Forbidden did its first reformation gigs, and we reformed for the same reasons, like everyone was telling us, you know, you got to fucking do it. And then eventually you just do it. You're like, oh, I'll try. And I was resisting. I was, even when I met you.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
I was like, you know, I'm just doing it for the show. And I'm just, you know, but then I felt that it's real. It's more tangible than in any other kind of genre of music, the thrash metal thing. So when I met him, it was like this immediate, like, calm, like I felt like you were my friend forever. You know, we just hit it off. And everyone in the band at the time. But that was 2008 at the Bang Your Head.
Bang Your Head, yeah.
And there was a little partying going on. It was fun.
Just a little party.
Just a little party.
You said he had a party bus. He wasn't even playing the show. Like he just rolled up with a party bus.
We had like a little party bus in the parking lot of the backstage area. Yeah. So you could always sneak out of the backstage and go to the party bus and get the real happenings and brought some friends. And
he walks up and he's like, there was girls stumbling out of the party bus.
There was like girls falling outside. I'm just here to meet Schmier. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, but so we hit it off then, and then every time we've seen each other since then, it's been a very easygoing, like, mutual respect, you know.
Last time was a great party also in Chile at the Metal Fest.
Yes, that was great. That was a fun show. That was Forbidden's very last show, and I got to say,
I saw that today on your Facebook
that was profile, That was it. I flew home from that, and
don't you miss Forbidden?
You know, in certain ways I do, but in other ways I don't, because you know everyone has their reasons. It just became a grind within the band, you know.
That's bad, yeah. It has the feeling
if not everyone's into it, and especially if your original members are not into it, then there's no use in like trudging it on.
Why you all want to play blues now?
No, I play metal, dude. I got a brand new band called Dress the Dead. Yeah,
I know. I've been following.
But I like blues too. I do love my blues. I like my rock. I like my metal. I'm a well-rounded guy. I like all that stuff. But going back to like the idea of doing it again. Just to me, it would just be something.
It has to be honest.
Yeah, it has to be honest, and it was honest. Check it out, and then in those moments when I was playing those shows, it was honest, and I started to realize show after show after show how much that ability and that feeling never ever leaves your fucking DNA. Like just getting up there and playing those songs, and then that's when I started to think about writing the next record, and I started writing Omega Wave when I got home, and that took a couple years to do, but it was well worth it. It just I'm not beating the dead horse. But yeah,
I think the vibe is important. You know, if the vibes are not there, you cannot create music together. It's very important, I think.
Well, it was.
I don't know how others do it. If you don't get along, you cannot write together. I can't. It needs to, you know, have good vibes, and then it's easy to write songs, and it's great to have fun together. I mean, music is all about communication and
it is.
Creating good vibes. You know, even if we make thrash metal, it makes us happy when we do it, right? So I think that's.
Well, as two guys who I can completely tell you were influenced by your band because we were listening to your music very regularly.
I mean, it's been back and forth.
Where did Destruction come from? I mean, and how, you know, like it was always, you know, like now I get like when a band kind of breaks and becomes popular and like you've got the internet and like everything. Like back then it was so fucking, it was like, you know, it was like tape trading and cassettes, and we had bootlegs that were passing around, and we were living in Fremont, which is only like 45 miles away from here, you know, the center of the Bay Area, like Oakland and San Francisco. But back then in 84, 85, it might as well have been fucking Nevada, because it was just, you know, like there was just no way for it to travel. So how did you discover? I mean, I would imagine you were influenced in some ways by like the thrash scene of LA and the Bay Area.
It started with, of course, the new wave of British heavy metal. You know, like we didn't want to. We were searching for those crazy bands, so we found like Raven and Jaguar and Angel Witch, you know,
which we loved all that stuff too.
And then of course,
Angel Witch, you're an angel witch.
Fantastic song. And then we kind of discovered the first Metallica demo.
Okay.
And also Exciter came out in that year.
Oh yeah, Heavy Metal Mania.
Yeah, so we're like trying to get Metallica from the Metal Massacre. Also, then we knew an album would be coming out, and of course Venom was there. Yeah, and it's
funny you bring up the Metal Massacre.
Yeah, that was
because
important.
Forbidden Evil was a song title
from which what was their name?
What the fuck was their name? I talked about this Brian Slater all the time.
That's how you stole the name.
But there was
War Cry.
So yeah, the band was called War Cry, and the song was called Forbidden Evil, and it was Metal Massacre. And so we're like,
it wasn't stealing
cool
back
name.
Inspiration.
We were inspired. It was our old drummer. It was Jim Pittman.
Well, look how many fucking Judas Priest songs have become band names.
Oh, yeah.
So hey, it was fair game. But you talk about the Metal Massacre and how those
the thing Metal Massacre was fucking important. Also,
it was huge.
Yeah. And back in the day, we were getting the Kerrang magazine from the United Kingdom, which was the only music magazine having like heavy metal in there. So over that we informed, and then when we get the first demo out, we get in touch with the first American fans, and actually the very first guy that wrote from the States was Caden from Heartwork.
Oh shit!
Fucking Caden.
Yeah, and Caden.
He's a state.
So you guys had the demos coming in via tape traders or whatever.
Yeah, we traded the Destruction demos, and he sent us like some American stuff. He sent us what was it back then? The Heartwork stuff. I think the first Slayer demos and stuff like this. So we were like, wow, what's going on in America? It's like this super awesome stuff coming from the States.
Super fast, yeah.
And then, of course, shortly after that, the first Anthrax album came out. And so we were like, wow. Because for a while we thought nobody's doing the extreme stuff, because people were laughing at us at the beginning. Like, they called us punk rock, but we wanted to be a metal band. And it was kind of very inspiring to see that on the other side of the world, the same shit happened. People were mixing punk rock with extreme metal and trying to play those songs fast. I remember when you wrote the first songs, you said on every heavy metal album there's only like one fast song. It's the A and the B version of the vinyl. Always the first song is the fast song, like Fast and Sharp was fast. So we said, why don't we do an album with all fast songs? That's what was the inspiration, basically.
Yeah.
And you know what? Another thing that inspired, I mean, that's similar to Rob and I's story. Our story is very similar. But I find that like when you go back in time and you think about the environment that people were living in the early 80s, was nuclear war was looming, like in all of our minds. So there's all the imagery was nuclear war, and then the Satan thing. It's like death and destruction. I mean, it was like a real tangible thing. So you can't recreate that. Now, ironically, we're probably closer to nuclear war than we were back then. But there was a newness to it, like just that whole Cold War vibe. And you guys had it. I mean, shit, you're right next to, the wall of Berlin. And
for us, it was also like this breaking out of this conservative society, because Germany, our area is like
thinking about that.
Very Catholic, very German, very boring, and you know everybody has to be that kind of conform, and then when we started to grow our hairs and look different, we tried to break out of this, and it was for us. Most of the inspiration was also to be not part of this boring society.
Yeah.
And that's how we started.
Totally.
So it really is punk rock, though.
And that always,
really
is. I mean, that was our thing too in Fremont, like to not be part of this boring society.
Yeah. Fremont, I mean, just because like Rob and I are from the suburbs. He went to just separate. You may not have heard this story, but Rob and I, he was in Forbidden Evil. We were the original Forbidden Evil guys. Yeah.
I started Forbidden Evil.
Yeah, he did.
What?
But there wasn't actually a name.
Is it in your history?
Yeah, it's in the history.
Really?
We've talked about it many times.
Okay.
But we both came from two different schools, and
well, I had moved around. I lived in Oakland and San Lorenzo, and then I moved to Fremont when I was a teenager. And then he was, I hung for a couple of years. I lived there, but he was one of the first people that I met after moving there.
Well, was there many metal at the time?
But it was strictly through metal.
All right.
It was strictly through metal. This
metal
was the part of the story that
there was like
because
2 or 3 metal heads
we were like
school.
We were like in our region the only bunch of metal. We were like 10 or 12 people.
Yes.
That's it. Like in a huge area, there's nobody.
Well, there was the other guy who had the
Fremont,
fucking spiky hair.
There was maybe 5 guys that were actually into thrash metal. And what happened is there's this guy, the unsuspecting guy named Clement, who was a Chinese friend that I had in school. And he walked up to me and he's like, hey, man. Because I had Merciful Fate, Corpse Let Us Soul EP, and I was walking with it facing out, so that the breasts were exposed.
The breasts of the nuts.
He's all, "Hey man, I know."
Fucking such a great album cover.
Yeah,
what
it's
a fucking
drawn, just fucking drawn.
I can just imagine King or Hank like, yeah, fucking tits, none on a cross.
My Hank imitation.
Great.
But the story goes is the guy says, "Hey, I know a guy who likes the same shit as you do." And that's exactly, or same crap. He said, same crap as you like. I'm all, real crap. I'm all, nobody likes this. He's like, yeah, my friend Robb, man. He's like, he lives right by me. So the next day, Clement said that to me. And the next day, he takes me to your house. And then you're handing me demos of Yngwie. We're doing tape trading.
Yeah, we're doing
tape trading. And then Jim Pittman comes along, who never trusted me because he thought I was evil. He thought Jim Pittman because I like Venom, and he's like, So that was our original drummer. But the name Forbidden Evil was like hovering, but they didn't have a name.
Yeah, Jim and I started Forbidden Evil,
but it wasn't ever called Forbidden Evil. We tried to call ourselves like 20 different things.
Yeah, we had
before.
a few different names.
But Forbidden Evil was one of the ones that was circulating. Was like
back in the day, there was still some names available. If you remember,
no, it was Forbidden Evil. Because we got that, because him and I picked that name from.
But you even wrote.
But we changed it to War Witch. We changed it to War Witch for a second. I have no idea why. For like a split second. But then I think the reason we were jamming in my dad's living room. We were all jamming in my dad's living room with like these various incarnations. I know. Well, he would go to work and I would cut school. We would all cut school and jam.
Dude, it was awesome. It was the most amazing living room ever back then.
And my dad had just recently got divorced, so he was just like, whatever, fuck it, man. So he would do it. We would cut school, but then he was like, after a while, he was like, get the fuck out. And so his house.
No, first
your
was
parents
Leroy.
let us cut.
Leroy.
Was it? Oh, that's right.
You were jamming Leroy, and I went and watched you guys. This is all great. I went and watched you guys. And I was thinking to myself, I'm fucking so much better than this guy, Leroy. But I wasn't, but I thought I was.
No, you weren't.
Well, I could play tighter. But as soon as you guys, you're all, we're going to go get some cigarettes and beer, and Russ stuck around. And I look at Russ.
That's right, yeah.
Do you mind if I play the guitar for a second? And I picked up and I played Balls of Wall. He's all, dude, we should get you in the band. Well, you tell Robb.
And it was great because Russ was like, I was 17 or 16, and Russ was like 20.
He was
22.
A lot older than us and able to buy booze.
He was 22.
Which was
I remember
awesome.
how old.
And he had a car.
2 cars.
Yeah.
He had 2 Mustangs.
Did he have 2 cars?
265s.
Mustangs. I thought he had like that big brown car.
He had the 265s at first, and then the big brown.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, so like I basically finagled my way into the band because my garage was opening and theirs was closing.
Yeah.
And then my mom and my stepdad fucking had to listen to us for about a year. And, then we started playing the clubs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the history. So until, Robb joined Violence in '86, we were just trudging around.
But basically also Bay Area, everybody knows everybody, right? Like all the bands.
I mean, at that point, we were 5 years behind from everybody. Like all the other bands were already kind of going, and we were like, we were these young kids playing backyard parties in the suburbs, and we're playing A Lesson in Violence.
Before the album came out.
The album wasn't even out.
Yeah.
We're playing it from like
and
the demos.
tight as fuck.
We're doing fucking Black Magic. We're doing all these songs. Whiplash.
Violence and
just
Force.
Like, a lot of stuff like that. And that was our way of being part of the culture, even though we weren't really in the scene because we haven't even played a club. We were just
Robb
playing
written a couple songs.
And finally, Craig was always the man. He just had the gift of gab and fucking could just like talk to anybody. And I couldn't at that time do that. And so he calls up Wes from Ruthie's Inn,
famous Wes
Robb.
Ruthie's Inn. Of course, I know Ruthie's Inn.
And he fucking blags our way onto
cold call him, as you say.
A fucking show for like $15 or whatever.
Well, but our first show we played was with Metal Church. The day before they played with Metallica and Megadeth and was it Anthrax? Metallica.
Was it that show? No.
Yeah, no. This was the day before. It was the day before New Year's of 1985.
Was it
going
really?
into 86.
Okay.
It was December 30th, 1985.
Wow.
That was the show, and then that's right. Because then we went to the show the next day. The Metallica.
You went. I didn't get to go.
Exit the show. Yeah.
You were too young.
No, I wasn't too young. Believe me. And see, before that, Robb and I, before we were playing in a band together, the first show we went to was it the Possessed one at the Mab with Hyrax and Mordred, right? That one. And then we went and saw Exciter at the Stone.
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of Federer Griffin.
We played the Stone back in the
Well, we
day.
played the Stone countless times, dude. Both of our bands used to sell that place out like every time towards the end of
in
it.
Chinatown, right?
Yeah, it was right there. Right on Broadway. And then, so yeah, but I mean, so we went through like, but the thing that separated us in Fremont, where we were from, is like he said, we were a few years behind, maybe not 5, but we were at least 2, and we were outcasts. We were from the suburbs, and everybody else is more from the city or Daly City or around Oakland. Or so like they didn't really. At first, they kind of like looked at us sideways, but then after a few shows, we started to get a little more respect. And then I think, and then you went to Violence pretty soon after that. But yeah, we had a good run, together doing it. But we didn't know what we were doing.
We were like the third wave of thrash. There was like the kind of the original, the Metallicas, the Megadeths, the Slayers, and then it was like
Testament,
Death Angel, Testament.
Then it was us,
and then it was Forbidden Violence.
Yeah.
So it was like the third wave.
But
but by then we were the ones carrying the fucking.
It's just a little period of time when it all happened.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it seemed to be so long, right?
Right, totally.
When I look back,
you're talking like a 4-year period.
Exactly, and for us, it felt like forever. Like it's just been 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah. It's crazy.
And it was it was an amazing time. I'm sure it was an amazing time for you guys too, because you guys had your whole scene popping off in Germany with Sodom and Creator.
Yeah,
and you guys
and when the Metallica, when this first wave came in, Metallica, Tankard,
they were actually important in that whole scene.
They were also very early Tankard, yeah.
Yeah, but you guys are equally as influential as we were to, or not us, but our predecessors out here. Like the German thrash stuff was equally as important.
And we were eating that shit up because it was like a lot.
The Chevy stuff was more evil, a little bit more evil. The American bands were technically better, but they were more evil and brutal. Yeah. That's how it was.
Then it was like, because then Hellhammer came out, and I always kind of, even though they were from Switzerland or whatever, to me it was very.
We grew up with them because we were living on the Swiss border, and we were always going in Switzerland to party. That's when we met Hellhammer, and we met Celtic Frost later also, and we were always hanging at the same parties because in our scene there was nobody, there was just us. So we were going to the next big city, which was Zurich, and that's where the Celtic Frost or Hellhammer guys was hanging out at this time.
Yeah, because you guys are from down. You're closer to Switzerland.
Yeah, very close. Directly at the border.
Switzerland, Belgium.
No, France. Switzerland, France.
Okay.
Like Set 7 Club, you know the Set 7.
What's that?
Tech 7.
Set 7 Club in Pratteln.
I don't know. Oh yeah.
It's like
Pratteln.
Pratteln. Yeah. That's like from my home base around there.
Okay.
So it's directly at the Swiss border, and Switzerland 5 minutes, France 10 minutes.
So tell me about your artwork here. What did this? How did this all come about?
Does that help or hurt?
Yeah, I lifted it up a little.
Yeah. Did it help a little? All right.
Yep.
All right. Well, the Forbidden Evil artwork originally. Here you go. Well, you guys know this. This is Killers and Kings, though. But it was originally something that I'd thrown to a friend in high school named Andy Rutherford, he was a punk rock artist who hand drew everything, right?
He was in one of the
Lesser
ARs,
Revolt.
right? Yeah.
One of the real AR. No, not the real AR. But anyway, there's 2 ARs. But it was a Fremont punk band, and they were actually our first fans because we played in my garage, and they were there. One of the first practices.
He painted the cover.
Well, he drew it originally, but it was drawn as 2 skulls. Originally it was 2 skulls on spikes, right
that
side
was a demo,
cross,
right?
Upside down cross. That was the demo. Then the next one was 2 skeletons fighting, bashing heads, which was my idea. I'm gonna bash their heads and have the pieces flying, and then one of them was gonna fall off the edge. So it was like really raw, not at all evolved idea. And then we brought this to Kent Matthews when we were doing Forbidden Evil, and this is a great story. So I tell Kent
at this point you're signed. We're
signed,
recording
and
the record.
We're recording the record.
You're now we gotta go.
The label gave you freedom to do that?
Well, yeah, they let us. It was combat, so combat didn't. They didn't even care about. They didn't give a fuck about us until they heard the record and saw the album cover. Then they liked us.
All right.
But they wanted to sign us because they're signing everybody. But here's the funny part of the story. So we go to Kent Matthews. We're sitting down. We're talking to him. And I'm telling him, evil skull, good skulls, pieces bashing, and then he's just
is that what it is? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's an evil skull and a good skull.
And a good skull.
It's like good and evil, and they're colliding over the wreckage of humanity, right? But that's not the depth that I gave to him. I just told this, and then
you're like, dude, skulls.
Yeah, I was like, this could look cool. because he's a great artist, because he did like the Fang album covers and everything, and
okay.
so he was amazing. But here's the funny part.
He did the first Fang album cover.
Yeah.
All right.
With the reptile on it.
Yeah. With the money will roll right in and all that. Okay.
That's not all. He did a lot of shit. But
I didn't know that.
Here's the funny part. So we leave, and then Russ goes back for another meeting. Russ goes back. All right. So then we show up for the final meeting where he's going to show us something he's working on. Mm-hmm. And he pulls out all these sketches. And one of them is 2 skulls and a crystal ball with a fucking wizard hold. What is this? Is Russ all, that's killer, dude, through eyes of glass. I'm like, no. And then he's all, wait. He's all, hold on. I thought about it when you said, Craig, and I thought about what Russ, this is cool, but this is cooler. And then he pulls this out of all. Okay. That's fucking it, dude. And then everyone's like, oh, thank God. We're just like not a fucking wizard, dude. Like, I love Russ to death.
I can see Russ totally loving the wizard with a
crystal balls and wizards. And he didn't sleep much. None of us did back then.
Nobody did back then.
Yeah. But anyway, so that it was almost like we dodged a complete, because this is a career changer. Like this album cover coming out literally made Combat go back and listen to the album again. I'm like, oh, yeah, there might be something there. And then we were told we were getting quarter-page ads. And then once the album cover came out and they looked at it, it was the it was a full page on the back of every fucking major magazine. So immediately we, out of the gates, we sold a lot of fucking records, which, nobody can account for these days. But we did really, really, shockingly well. And our manager, God bless her, made sure that we never thought we were ever big. Debbie was like, she would make sure. And at one point, the album cover brought him into Rick Rubin fell in love with the band. And he's like,
Rick Rubin fell in love with Forbidden? No shit,
dude,
huh?
We didn't know. This is hell historic. We didn't know until Debbie was mad at us one day. He's all, you guys are getting big heads. He's all, I told Rick Rubin no. I'm like, what do you mean it's all no? He's like, he wanted to buy your next record out and do your record, but you're not ready yet. And we're like, what?
I never heard this story.
Yeah, so I literally talked to Rick about it because Man May God got signed to, my other band got signed to American. Yeah. And I sit with Rick the first time, I was in Forbidden. He's like, oh, great band. So I really wanted to sign you guys, but your manager turned me down.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, hey. Kept us humble. Yeah, kept us humble, and that was her whole.
Maybe
point.
not the worst thing to do.
But this cover became more iconic maybe than the band itself. And I was telling Rob, I've seen well over 1,000 tattoos of this, that's crazy because there's bands way bigger that don't have that many tattoos, and this cover has a power where it's just something.
Yeah, it's just the first time when you see somebody having the tattoo of your band, it's like.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw this skull actually as the tattoo. I was like, "What the fuck?" And
so, what's the story behind?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we were working out the thing with the record company. They were like, "Yeah, we have this artist, and what do you want in the cover?" And we said, "We want the skull cracking up, And the guy delivered the cover, and it was like, we were blown away. It was like, bang, right away.
Hit right off the bat.
Yeah, he did what we said. He said one flames and this scenario with a cracking skull, and he came with the right first draft was killer.
No, that's awesome.
No wizards?
No, did you already have the logo?
The logo also he did. We had on the first album we had a different logo with like a different lettering, and then we wanted to go like in this more modern direction, like a logo that is catchy and sharp.
I gotta say, this logo, so I've transferred it to say Killers and Kings. It was the hardest logo.
I know.
Of all of the fucking logos. I was like, how the fuck? Like, we had to go through so many. Because it's like this 3-dimensional thing, but it's got like these little, things pointing this way. And I was like, it tripped me out. Like, after looking at it for a long time and having to go through so many, it really made me respect what a cool logo is. Because it's pretty fucking unique. Logo. It's pretty fucking unique, man. Like, there's nothing that really looks like that.
That's true.
Yeah,
true. I mean, the logo was important. We were very sure at the beginning that the logo has to be very strong. And we looked at all those American bands that had, like, logos that were, like, brutal. Mm-hmm. So we said, we have to change the logo. It has to be more catchy. And the guy who drew the cover...
Who drew this?
This is actually an unknown artist.
Oh, okay.
For the other,
the label.
Yeah, the label brought him in, and then for the other albums later on, we had this German artist that became very famous after working for us. He did also our Mad Butcher album, and then afterwards he was doing the Love Tankard and other bands, and he became.
Who did Release of Agony?
That's Lütke, Joachim Lütke. He's an artist actually from my little village that moved to Vienna, and he was getting a really well-known artist at the time. And he came back to my little village one day and he said, "Hey, you're a metal band. You should do like real art, like brutal art." And it was like, wow. And
well, that's my personal favorite.
That's a fucking awesome album cover.
Release of Agony,
it
was
awesome.
a shocking cover. We came to the States, and the tour we had, and the label got calls from parents all the time saying, "What is this? What you releasing?"
It's a little ahead of its time.
At this time, it was brutal. If you look at it now, it's like it's not brutal at all.
I think
it's pretty great.
Because
to me, it's like a classic.
It's
cool album
and the artist is still a good friend of mine, and he did a lot of famous stuff afterwards. He did like some Dimo Borgir and Creator, and he's still doing art, and he's a fantastic guy. And he's actually from the same little village, 1,000 souls little place, and he's also a good friend meanwhile, and he knows he created something special. It's
that's awesome.
It's something that stays forever in the history, like.
Yeah, you guys got a lot of that, and I got to say again, you're like he was saying, your logo is really cool. As far as our logo, I was never. I mean, you don't want to say you're not a big fan of it, but it was redone, and I immediately looked at it, and my whole thing was like, why did the F in the end look like Iron Maiden? And it was like, no. I was like, well, that's it. It's done now. So we slightly revised it out of distortion and moved on. But yeah, it's like
changing the logo is a very difficult thing. I think the fans don't like it. Don't we touch the logo? It's
once you get used to it, it's association by your subconscious just clicks into it, and that's something you understand when you get older. Then when you're younger, you're always trying to improve things, and people like, quit fucking improving and just do what you do. Again, it's a fine line for us as artists because you want to do better. You want to show your growth.
Yeah, you don't want to repeat yourself all the time, of course.
Well, when we did Twisted Into Form, the amount of growth that we had was a lot, and people weren't ready for it at first. It was just like, oh, whoa, that's not like Forbidden Evil. But then it did actually end up doing better. But at first, it was like, before the album came out, it was really racked to in a strange way. And then once it came out, everyone liked it, but it was like, we're like, what happened? What did we do wrong? And then people accepted it. But that could have went the other way too. I know how that goes.
There's not so many bands that could change their style and get all the fans or get more fans. Especially in extreme music, it's Metallica and who else?
We got really musical all of a sudden. We got really, really melodic, and that was just a weird step. But
And because when you're like 16, 17, you're wild, and then all of a sudden you start to develop stuff and you want to experience it. As a musician, it's normal, and all the bands go through this. Even the death metal bands or the more extreme bands, even the black metal bands, all of a sudden they become more melodic or do different stuff, and then they break up, and because it's difficult to just do the same thing and be sure about yourself that it's good,
Well, you're in the middle of it, you really don't have any idea what you're doing. You're like in the middle of the storm, you don't have. But one thing the three of us have here is we've got a lot of fucking history. It's like when that history comes, that means there's a shit ton of mistakes, and there's a wisdom that comes from that,
Oh, yeah.
And we're all still here standing, so we're all alive and able to talk about it. So I suppose in that sense, it's good, I'm glad I went through what I went through.
It shapes you as a person, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, guys, thanks, man. It's fucking awesome talking to you guys. It was
some very interesting stories, man.
Yeah,
I didn't know you found it forbidden.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. He was the OG. He's the OG. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been doing it, But you remember, part of that story too is that I the first time I came around, you're like, you're just not good enough. You're like, you're not ready. You went with like Noel Plogger. When you were Inquisitor, you're doing Inquisitor.
Right.
You're like, I like Noel's more ready than you, and then 6 months later, I was more ready. But I wasn't even playing guitar when I met Rob. I wasn't playing for 4 months. I just started playing. I could barely do a bar chord.
We were just friends listening to thrash and hanging out and going to shows, and
I mean,
At war with Satan ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Heaven's on fire and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah,
that was on endless repeat at his parents' house.
Venom was my band because they were unlike anyone else, and everyone they sounded like shit. So I thought that was cool.
They were most evil band ever when they came out. I mean, I loved it, and I thought after black metal it was going down too fast. It was like songs were getting too slow. They were trying.
I think At War with Satan was pretty fucking epic.
But it's it's this progression you've been talking about. They also doing this progression from total punk stuff at the beginning to trying to write more creative songs. And to me, as a 17-year-old kid, it didn't work.
Right.
I was like, ooh, what happened to Venom?
See, I was I was cool with it. I was on the ride up until Possessed. When that album Possessed came out.
Yeah.
Then I was like, yeah, that just kind of went the other way. But yeah, I love That War with Satan. Anyway,
it wasn't bad, but it didn't have this magic.
Rip Ride ripped. Rip Ride was cool.
It's true. Yeah.
We actually covered that. We did that for some album for Gun Records.
All right.
We did a cover. It's on.
Well, anyway, guys,
YouTube.
we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna wrap this up. Thanks for watching, everybody. Schmier from Destruction, Craig from Forbidden,
Robb, Killers and Kings.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, man.
Thanks, man.
Hell yeah.